Well, today we're going to talk about acknowledging your offensive lineman. Well, not really, but you'll understand as we get along. So forgive me for using a sports analogy, but as a pastor friend of mine once said, football be used to explain just about every spiritual principle. In football, quarterbacks and running backs tend to dominate the story. For example, most valuable players are never linemen and they're seldom defensive players. The big money and the big accolades go to quarterbacks and running backs. It seems like the more you touch the football, the more likely you are to become a star and win most valuable player. Yet, nearly every quarterback and every running back will tell you that without offensive linemen blocking, they would be nothing because they could do nothing. Quarterbacks gush over their linemen. Quarterbacks are known for giving their O linemen lavish gifts at the end of the season. Usually it's an expensive Rolex watch, but just a year or so ago, one quarterback bought each member of his offensive line a new pickup truck. So why the exorbitant gifts? Well, it's the O line that keeps the pass rush of the other team from sacking the quarterback, giving the quarterback time to complete its pass. It's the O line that makes the blocks, that springs the running back free to run for positive yardage. Even though few football fans know the name of offensive linemen, these unsung heroes are essential for the success of the team. Now, imagine a quarterback having an MVP season, throwing for over 4,000 yards and dozens of touchdowns without ever getting sacked. Now, imagine him taking all the credit while the bruised and scarred offensive linemen stood by watching their quarterback not acknowledge their contribution to his success. My guess is that the following game or the O line might just accidentally let a rushing linebacker get past their block on the way to sacking the quarterback. Well, most of life is a team sport. And I don't mean to say that or suggest that life is nothing but a game. Life is often hard, unforgiving, and futile. However, when success or accomplishment happens, the term self made man is a bit of a misnomer. An individual's success may have to do with innate skills, grit, and discipline, but it almost always is built on the shoulders of those who went before us or those who work alongside us. Neglecting to recognize and acknowledge those who helped make my success or accomplishments possible is short sighted and counterproductive. Peak performance not only depends on a honed physical abilities, performance is highly affected by emotions. Underappreciated team members will not have the emotional fuel to be their best and to do their best. So, have you ever gone unrecognized for your part in an accomplishment? How did it make you feel? I bet you it stung. So, King David narrowly escaped making this tragic error. Following the attempted coup of Absalom, David was delivered by faithful subjects who risked their lives to save his. The attempted coup cost Absalom his life. David sulked over his son's death instead of acknowledging the loyalty and bravery of his subjects. They had saved David's life and the lives of his family at great risk to their own. You can find this account in 2 Samuel 19. Well, the coup had just been thwarted and Absalom's forces routed when instead of gratefully acknowledging those who bravely defended and delivered David, he was nowhere to be found. Word spread that the king had hidden himself away and was mourning the loss of his traitorous son. The people didn't know how or what to think. They didn't know what to do. Had they done the wrong thing? Was David more loyal to a murderous traitor than to those who saved him? Well, consequently, David's subjects began returning to their homes by stealth and kind of in shame, not knowing what to think. David's failure to give credit where credit was due began to fracture an already splintered nation. David's general, Joab, confronted his misplaced emotions and their effect on the people. To David's credit, he responded quickly. He took his place at the city's gate and he re engaged there with the people, thanking them and adjudicating their disputes. Now, you remember that's how Absalom began to sway the hearts of the people away from David and toward himself. David finally began honoring those who honored him with their loyalty. David's loyalists were his O line, his offensive linemen. Without them, he couldn't be king. We all look to others for affirmation and encouragement to sustain us. Students look to teachers and coaches, workers look to managers, foremen and bosses, children to parents, and spouses to each other. Without affirmation or recognition, a sense of invisibility occurs, creating a lack of self worth, meaning, and purpose. Emotional tanks become depleted, creating emotional deserts. Without recognition, people begin to wither and wonder if they are unseen, unvalued, unappreciated, unloved, or worse yet, exploited or taken for granted. In Chapman and White's book, The Five Languages of Appreciation in the Workplace, data reveals that people will take a new job for money, but they'll leave a job for lack of recognition. Words matter. Recognition and gratitude are the signs of honor. In Rath's and Clifton's book, How Full Is Your Bucket? Research shows people who receive positive comments tend to thrive emotionally and physically. That same research showed nuns who made more positive entries in their journals lived an average of 5 to 7 years longer than their counterparts who consistently made negative entries. That 7 years longer lifespan is about the same that a non smoker has over a smoker. So let's create a new definition for bucket list. Instead of a list of things I want to see or accomplish, let's make a list of O linemen who need their emotional buckets filled. Who are your O linemen? You might be saying, well, it's me. I need encouragement. Trust me, I understand that. What if you begin to fill emotional buckets of others and that enables them to begin filling emotional buckets too? Encouragement, affirmation, gratitude, and appreciation are all forms of honoring. It acknowledges a person's worth or value to a team or an organization. There are other forms of honor, but verbalized appreciation is the water that keeps a person's soul thriving and persevering when difficult times occur. Finally, are you in a position to be a Joab? Remember him. He was the guy that came to David and said, hey, you got to wake up about this. Do you have a quarterback who needs to begin giving credit to his O lineman? An alternative to confronting a leader's lack of affirming those on their team is to set an example for that person by encouraging and honoring up. Leaders, like quarterbacks, have bad days too. Mostly, they hear concerns and problems which deplete their emotional buckets. Seldom do they hear affirmation. Consider your leader as your O lineman. Acknowledge them with affirmation or thanks. In turn, they may begin honoring those around them, which may include you. So here's some things to consider. How could David's lack of recognition of his loyal subjects' heroic actions affect his ongoing leadership? Yeah. How does the lack of recognition affect leadership? How do you feel when your efforts are acknowledged and affirmed? Yeah, it's pumped up, right? Who has honored you with acknowledgement and affirmation? Do they know what they mean to you? That's an important thing for them to know and hear how positive their effect has been on your life. And at work, are your old linemen at work getting the acknowledgement they need? How can you honor them with affirmation and gratitude? Well, listen, think about this subject, think about these questions, and until we get together again, well, work in the light.